Show of hands, how many of you live in the United States of America? All of you, right? So do I. So you would think that we know everything there is to know about the U.S. government and how it works, right? Well, not really. But I hope that by the end of this presentation, you can all take away a little more knowledge about the country that you and I call home. So, after studying a history class on campus this quarter, I started learning about the fundamental political, social, and economic origins of this country. And that got me interested. It got me thinking about how does this country function now, right? How do they get things done? What processes do they have in place to work correctly? It's like a well-oiled machine, right? And after some research, I'd like to share what I've learned with you. Now, so as we explore the different parts of the U.S. government, we'll first go through the job of the federal government, then state and local, and finally we'll learn why the U.S. was created in the first place. As we delve into the intricacies of the U.S. government, the part of our government that carries nearly all the available power in our country is the federal government. Now, the federal government consists of three main branches: the judicial, the legislative, and the executive, right? So the executive branch has the president, the vice president, and his cabinet. The legislative branch consists of Congress, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. And the judicial branch consists of the Supreme Court and other federal courts, right? So each branch has their own responsibilities, right? So the executive branch is in charge of carrying out laws. They do this by passing bills or vetoing laws. The legislative branch is in charge of making laws. Its powers include proposing bills or passing laws by supermajority, declaring war, and other things. The judicial branch has the role of interpreting laws and limiting the powers of other branches of government. In the Supreme Court, which is the main part of the judicial branch, holds the power of judicial review, in which it can decide whether things are constitutional or not. So, they interact in an interesting way. The U.S. sets up a system of checks and balances, so no one branch can do everything. They don't have overreaching power. And each branch is responsible for keeping others in check. For example, the executive branch can appoint federal judges that go into the Supreme Court and veto laws passed by Congress. The legislative branch can impeach a president and must approve all Supreme Court judges. The judicial branch may deem any action or law made by another branch unconstitutional. As we see, the federal government has a lot of power, but it can't reach every single part of the U.S. That's where state and local government comes in. Under the 10th Amendment, all powers not granted to the federal government are reserved for the states and the people. So state and local governments come into place. The format of state government is similar to that of federal government. They have a legislative, judicial, and executive branch. And they have similar types of duties. The executive branch consists of the governor. The legislative branch consists of elected body that decides on budgets and laws. And the judicial branch consists of the state Supreme Court. Now, the state government actually has some of the biggest impacts on the citizens of the U.S. They make things like your driver's license, your ID, public education, and sales and property taxes all derive from state government. According to the White House, most Americans have more daily contact with the state and local governments than with federal government. Police departments, libraries, and schools come from state and local government. For example, if a law is made in the state government that contradicts a law in federal government, the state government will often be upheld. For example, with legal cannabis in this very state. Now, going into local governments, they're more easily affected by the people who live in them, right? The residents feel a sense of community in a local government that you just don't have in those bigger governments. There are lots of different types of local governments, like municipalities and cities, but they're usually responsible for things like police departments, Parks, recreation, police and fire departments, housing services, and other things. According to the White House, like sewers and things like that. But this is supplemented by waste management and lifeline ambulances. So private industry does have a role also. So after coming to know all this information about state, local, and federal government, a certain question came to mind. Why does the U.S. even exist? What purpose do they have? What are they driving towards? And what do I have to do? What do I mean in the grand scheme of things? Now, the Constitution started the unification of a nation. It was originally a set of rules that was very useful when starting a nation. Everyone had one set to follow. Every law, every rule had to derive from the Constitution. By no means was the Constitution perfect when it first started, nor is it now. But with lots of amendments that have been made, it's come to be something that represents American ideals. Certain rights that are afforded to us are synonymous with being American, like freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and freedom from servitude. But what intention does or should the U.S. have? If you ask a Republican, they might tell you an innate bond between state and church, free market capitalism, strong national defense, and government deregulation. If you ask a Democrat, they might believe that government intervention to achieve social equality and justice, or government stepping in to help alleviate the problems of the residents. This push and pull dichotomy between the two parties defines modern politics as we know it. The Constitution leaves it clear the intention for the nation. According to Clyburn, a senator elected a couple years ago, says, the purpose of the federal government, as found in the preamble of the Constitution, is to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for common defense, promote the general welfare and security, and secure blessings of America to ourselves and our prosperity. The Constitution leaves three main points that are a basis for the nation: inherent rights of the people, government by the people, and separation of power by branches of government. While our lives will still continue to be the same as they were yesterday, I hope that you can take something new and gain a greater appreciation for the nation that we all live in. Now, as we continue to enjoy the rights afforded to us in this nation, I hope that we are a little bit closer to a satisfactory understanding of the government around us, how it functions, and how it gets things done. The shape of this country is formed by the jobs of our three main branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial, and the powers held by each branch: jurisdiction and impact of state government, the community of local government, and finally, the basis for the entire nation and the unalienable rights afforded to us. The Constitution starts with a vision for our 50 independent states, and that vision is summarized in the famous 50 words of the preamble. We, the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for common defense, and promote the general welfare to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. We, the people. That's me and you. This means that the direction of our nation will always reflect the type of people that live in it. If our ambitions are positive, the nation as a whole will rise. The responsibility to lead lies in the hands of each of you.